boy. So I said, if you ask Bob very nicely, he might leave the bed for you because he's selling his furniture, he doesn't need it anymore. So he ran in the other room, his parents were with Bob there looking around. He pulled on Bob's coattails and he said, Bob, can you leave the bed behind for me? And Bob said, yeah, of course I can, yeah, no problem. And that sold the house basically. So the first people to look at the house bought the house simply because the child wanted a bedroom with a bed in it. So we sell property for emotional reasons. This was a unique opportunity for those people to own a property. Otherwise they would be forced to rent and throw the money in the bin every month. That's how they saw that the rent was going down the drain every month. This way they're buying a property and they're investing in their future.
£7,000 we took up front, they moved in, they pay £807 every month, and we make £250 net cash flow after we pay the mortgage. We also have a £20,000 back-end profit. Back-end profit means is the amount we sold the house for. Remember, we sell 10, 15, 20% above market value. We sold this property quite a bit above market value. And if these buyers were going to get a mortgage in 60 months, in 2018, if they decided to go and get a mortgage, they will owe us further £20,000 on completion. That's the difference between how much we owe our bank, GE money, and how much they owe us at the time. So, £7,000 up front, £15,000 cash flow, £20,000 back end, £42,000 net profit. How many of you would like this deal?
How much did we pay for this?
£1,800.
Where did we get the £1,800 back from?
£7,000.
And how much did we spend on renovation?
Nothing.
And how many tenants have we moved in?
Zip.
How many voids are we going to have?
None. Never.
42,000 profit. Let's show you another babysit. This is, funny enough, another Bob from Dartford. He's a reluctant landlord, so this property is tenanted and it's on the market for 11 months and he won't take an offer on it. He wants full asking. So he's got £15,000 equity tied up in this property and that's what he wants.
How many of you have you met sellers that will never budge on the price?
Can you buy this below market value?
No way. You haven't got any chance whatsoever.
We advertise, we pay full price, we can pay 10,000 more. Do you think we get a few more inquiries? Absolutely we do. We agreed to pay Bob what he wanted. We said we'll give you the £15,000 that you want out of your property, on the understanding that we have some flexibility around the timescale we deliver you the money. He doesn't need the money today, provided I can get the 15,000, he said, I don't mind waiting. That's what we agreed. So let's babysit your property for you. We'll babysit your mortgage payments for you. We'll pay off your mortgage and we deliver the £15,000 equity to you some way down the line.
On completion. He
agreed with that. So now we have control over the property. We sold it on an instalment contract to maximise our profits. Maximising profits is the name of the game. Do we want to build tenants or do we want to build profits? In my mind, I have enough tenants already. I'd like to build some profits. Tell us about the purchasers.
Again, purchasers, an African family, they were living in Lewisham, renting one-bedroom flat. They love the fact that they can buy a two-bedroom, semi-detached house. They were just about to get married, fiancés, and they wanted to start life together. So they love the fact that they can move with £5,000. When I checked their bank account, they had actually £11,000 in the bank account. But because this property needed a little bit of renovation, I actually advised them, look, you just put £5,000 deposit down and spend the rest of the money on changing the carpets, painting the walls, maybe change the kitchen.
So who's doing the renovation on this?
They are doing it. We never do renovations. I hate building work. I'd rather focus on buying houses than doing and painting houses.
Tell us about the profits.
Oh, this is an interesting bit. Bob had a very cheap mortgage. Very, very cheap. So we didn't mind giving him £15,000. We didn't mind paying the full market price. If you're getting a very nice, cheap house and cheap monthly payments, you're going to make a massive amount of cash flow. So we served the profits in the cash flow. So we agreed favourable terms in exchange for the full market value. £480 net cash flow. Over a 5-year period, £28,000.
Back end?
£22,000. Well, actually £37,000, but remember we owe Bob £15,000 on completion. So £37,000 back end, but after we pay Bob the £15,000, we can have further £22,000.
How much are we going to make on this?
£55,000.
How much do we pay for it?
Nothing, absolutely nothing.
How many tenants have we moved in?
Nope.
Any repairs, any maintenance, any voids?
I didn't bother to put a sign on this one, I sold it right off.
Anybody like one of those? As I said to you before, we show you some strategies that you can use without actually needing any money. So, babysits, let's have a look at, or before we do that, there's a free recording. We are recording this session, and if anybody here would like to have a free copy of that recording, somebody's going to hand something to you now, which you can fill up with your email address and telephone number, and we'll happily send you a free recording of this evening. So, Mesud, tell us. I'm going to ask these people before I asked you. Do you know what a lemon is? Anybody can volunteer? What is a lemon?
Oh, I wish you didn't buy.
A property you wish you didn't buy?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mesud, what is your interpretation of a lemon?
Exactly. A property that you don't want to own. Even if you bought it, you don't want to own it anymore. It usually is because the mortgage debt on the property is higher than the value. So if you had to sell this property today, it will cost you money. So you have to
mean a bit like this?
Look exactly like that.
Let's explain this.
Look at this property. Just imagine this property is £100,000 and the mortgage on it is £110,000. So if you had to sell this property today, it will cost you £10,000. You have to go to your savings account, take £10,000 and pay the bank just to get rid of this property.
Could it also be?
Could it be also because it's negative cash flow? Negative cash flow could be because the service charge on it is too high, the rents are low, maintenance and ground rent are also very expensive. Could be because you bought a property on an expensive mortgage with a subprime lender. So even if your property is not in negative cash flow at the moment, remember, if it's on a standard variable rate, recently Santander increased their standard variable rate from 4.24 to 4.74, just a half a percentage increase, and that created 70,000 negatively cash flowing properties in the whole country. So if it's not a lemon yet, it's a potential lemon. It looks a bit like that.
Show us that, what that means?
Just imagine this property rents for $525. Mortgage payments, service charge, or ground rent costs you $645, and it costs you £120 every single month. Would you like to own this property? Would you like to pride yourself having 20 properties that are negatively cash flowing?
Does anybody here own one of these already? I don't mind putting my hand up, I do. Because, you know, back in the mid-2000s, property investors were buying new builds off plan, like they were going out of fashion. These greedy developers were developing city centres, anything by a bay, anything by a piece of water, selling them off-plan, overpriced, and we're giving massive incentives to buy them. Today, those properties are in negative equity and worse still, negative cash flow. There are hundreds and thousands of investors today and property owners today subsidising the mortgage every single month. I certainly do on some of my properties, I don't mind admitting that. There are hundreds and thousands of other investors doing the same. They're our customers. They're the people that we can approach to make some money from. If we learn to do one of these ourselves, then we can go and do one of these for somebody else and actually make money from them.
Fix nations' problems.
So how does that make you feel?
A bit like that.
Being served up a lemon. You go out for the evening for a nice steak meal and they bring you a lemon. What do you do with it? What do you do with a property that you can't sell because there's no equity in it? Property value 90,000, mortgage outstanding 115,000. You're going to have to find some money to sell this property.
Can't do nothing about it, it just drains your pockets and you're stuck with it. Unless you sell on a stolen contract.
So let's give you an example that this is a property that I purchased in city centre Manchester by a canal. Nice location, brand new, off plan. In fact, it was such a good deal I bought 2 of these in the same development. And the developer was so kind to me, he gave me £12,000 cash back on each deal. So I banked £24,000, got 2 properties, hasn't cost me a penny. Didn't even need to find a tenant for a year or so.
Wow. Nice deal, isn't it?
It was a nice deal. The problem is that I have now got 11.
How does that make you feel?
Makes me feel like I really don't know what to do with it.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, take your pens up and start writing, because this is going to shock you. Okay, this is a one-bedroom flat in central Manchester. I searched on Rightmove, and there was another one, literally similar, for sale for £99,000. I said, Doug, can you go downstairs and bring the folder? He's walking up the stairs, bringing the folder, just dumped it in front of me. I opened the papers and I saw NRA mortgage, outstanding balance 138,500. How much is that in negative equity? Can anyone tell me? Correct, about £40,000 in negative equity. So if Doug had to sell this property today, it would cost him £40,000 to get rid of it. Well, also, on top of that, I'll look at the rentals as well. It was renting for $525, exactly like on that example before. Mortgage was $545 plus £90 service charge plus £25 ground rent. How much negative cash flow is that? Anyone can tell me? About £140 in negative cash flow, excluding agent fees, excluding letting fees, excluding voids, excluding maintenance, excluding repairs. Would you like to keep that property? Where is your £24,000 gone now, Doug?
I've spent it over and again.
Right, okay. So we said, okay, relax, take a deep breath. You know what? We have got nothing to lose. We're going to put it on Rightmove and try to sell it. So we put it on Rightmove, £5,000 deposit, moves it in, no mortgage required, one bedroom luxurious town centre flat, it's yours. Right, we turn it from £140 negative cash flow to £260 positive cash flow. How do we do that? Remember, we are not renting properties, we are not selling on option, we're selling on installment contract. So, we have buyers, we don't have tenants anymore. So buyer exchanges contract with you. When they exchange contract with you, they are responsible for the service charge, they are responsible for the ground rent, they're responsible for the maintenance, they're responsible for any insurance on the property. So, that all of a sudden created some cash flow. Also, because we're selling an installment contract, we can sell a certain percentage above our mortgage. If our mortgage costs 4.5%, we can sell for 5.5% and make 1% margin. That's how we created £260 extra cash flow. £5,000 deposit, £15,000 cash flow over a 5-year period. In this instance, zero back end. We sold this property for £143,000. How much more is above the market value? Can you tell me? Can anyone tell me how many percentage above market value is that? Bear in mind it's worth about 100. About 45% above market value, isn't it? That's the power of installment contracts. This guy moved in, he was very happy. He loved the fact that he can move with a £5,000 deposit. He had a bigger deposit, but we didn't want this bigger deposit. He wanted to move with £5,000. He loved the fact that he can own a one-bedroom flat in central Manchester because he was travelling between Manchester and London all the time, and he didn't want to rent, he wanted to own. So he loved the fact that he can own a place, his own place. £40,000 turned into £20,000 in net profits.
Nice. So we've made £20,600 profit from a loss of £40,000. So if we add the £40,000 back to that, how much is that profit? Actually, is that £60,600 profit on a property that was £40,000 in negative equity?
How many of you would like to help investors who are struggling with those negative equity properties? That's how powerful they are.
Do you know, it's interesting because Mesud asked me a question when we found a buyer on this. He said, Doug, you've got negative equity on this property of about £40,000 and you've got a negative cash flow every month of about £140, which means I took my wallet out of my pocket every month and took £140 out of my wallet for that one, and another probably £140 a month for the other one. That's not including some of the other properties that I own as well. Luckily, I have a lot of properties that offset those losses. But you know, there are a lot of investors out there with these properties that will be happy to pay you to take them off their hands. So he said to me, how much are you prepared to give me to get rid of this problem? You've got £40,000 negative and £140 a month negative cash flow. Would you pay me £5,000 to take it off your hands? I'd gladly give it £5,000 because otherwise it's going to cost me £40,000 plus to get rid of it. So there are people that will pay you to take these deals away from them. So let's have a look at number 2, which is Sky Studios. It's a property by City Airport in London. Quite a nice location. It's a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment. The lady that owns this property was, she was in arrears, going to be repossessed, so we stopped the repossession. We just simply went to the judge and said, look, we'll give you another £100 a month on top of the normal mortgage payments, and that will pay down the arrears. He agreed with that. So we've taken control of the property. The problem was that it was £65,000 in negative equity. But the good thing was that it had a very cheap mortgage. It had a Mortgage Express mortgage on there, 1.75% above base rate, which is 2.25.
Lifetime tracker.
Instantly we see an opportunity. We can make some money out of this because it's such a small mortgage rate. We can charge 4% above that to an incoming buyer who can't get a mortgage, who hasn't got a big enough deposit. So what do we do with this?
Okay, put it on right, £7,000, no mortgage required, monthly payments £1,113. House is yours. We actually got a lady from Yorkshire, Leeds. She got a new job in London, and she loved the fact that she could buy a place rather than rent it. It would cost about £1,100 to rent it in London anyway. So we thought that, look, for £1,100 you can buy it. Where else you can buy a house with £7,000 deposit, £1,100 a month. She loved the fact. She moved in. I haven't seen the lady. The tenant did the viewing. She decided to buy it there. She just sent me a electronic transfer payment for the all the deposit. 28 days later, we exchanged contract and she paid £7,000 on exchange. Remember, because the mortgage payment was very, very low, we have £551 massive cash flow on there. So we used some of that cash flow actually to repay that negative equity loan there. And again, we sold this property for £239,000. This property was worth probably £175,000 at the time. The London market has moved a little bit since then, so it doesn't look that bad deal anymore. It's probably more worth like £200,000 now, but still massively negative equity. So £7,000 upfront, £33,000 cash flow over a 5-year period.
What's our profit on this?
Only £40,000.
£40,000. How much do we pay for this?
Nothing.
Did we repair it?
No.
Any tenants?
No.
Any voids?
No.
Done deal. So that's enough of lemons. Let's talk about purchasing a property with a mortgage.
Let's just talk about the real deal.
It's more traditional to buy a property with a mortgage these days. So you know, we do that. So let's look at this property in Jellicoe Avenue. Belongs to Jane. The value of the property is £160,000. That's a 3-bedroomed terraced house down in Kent, Gravesend in Kent. That's a typical price for an ex-council house down there. Jane had a mortgage outstanding of £24,000, and she came to our office, as all of our sellers come to our office. We never go to see the property; they always come to us. And we asked her what she wanted. We also asked her what she needed. What she wanted was £160,000 for the house, but what she needed was to buy a caravan for £78,000 and pay off the mortgage. So we spoke to her, so we said, look, if we can give you what you need, which is £78,000 to buy your caravan. She wanted to buy a caravan and move back to the land and be there with her horses and her grandchildren. Get rid of the house. Pay off the mortgage. So we said, okay, let's give you £110,000. We'll give you that now. We owe you some more money, of course, so why don't we give you another £25,000 later on? And we wrapped that up around an agreement called we call it a JV agreement, joint venture agreement, 11 pages. So we agreed that we would give her 110 now and 25 later. Any accountants amongst you? 110, 25, that's 135. So, what reason why we go for 135?
Next door was for sale for 135, but it was a probate property, so it was pretty much very ugly property. Old lady died there, and the garden was massively overgrown. It wasn't sold for 135. I said, Jane, I know your property is much better, but it can't be way more expensive than next door. Well, it wasn't sold for 135.